Welcome to the Safe Money Retirement Show with certified financial fiduciary Tim Wood.
Let's sit down and make an actual plan, and we have definitely got to factor in that retirement danger zone. I wish to God someone had sat down and done that with my dad. We wish we would have known about these things.
Tim is a retirement and income planning expert, best-selling author, and the founder of SafeMoneyRetirement.com. Tim focuses on wealth management, retirement income, tax and long-term care planning, and so much more.
Today is your opportunity to build the tomorrow you want. You've got an 87% chance of success. Well, son, that's a 13% chance of failure.
And now, the Safe Money Retirement Show with Tim Wood.
And we welcome you into this week's edition of the Safe Money Retirement Show. Alongside Tim Wood, the founder, president, and certified financial fiduciary with Safe Money Retirement. My name's Kevin McAlpin. We hope you're having a fantastic day. And of course, Tim and I thank you so much for making this show part of your routine as we talk all things retirement with you here on the radio. Coming up on today's show, I know we talk a lot about Roth conversions on this show, but what about a sweet spot when you should consider making those conversions? Plus, Tim's going to tell you how he can help put a plan in place for your retirement now to avoid potential headaches later. And of course, you know we're going to get to our safe money story of the week. All of that and much, much more. But first things first, we say hello to the star of the show, the man of the hour, and my buddy Tim Wood. And Tim, certainly a pleasure as always, sir. How we doing today?
I'm doing well, K-Mac. You doing all right, man?
I'm doing well. I will be doing better when Mother Nature gets her act together. Tim, 80 degrees last Saturday, snow flurries last Monday. What in the wide world of sports is going on here in this last couple of weeks?
I don't know. It's been a very weird late winter.
Yeah.
It has been very weird. Same here in Tennessee. Very weird.
Time is certainly zipping right on by. It's hard to believe we are here in the third week of March already. Where does the time go? So, Tim, I know we have a lot to get to on the show here today. And one thing I know that we've addressed quite often on this program is the benefits of making Roth conversions. But the big question is, when should you make those conversions? Well, financial author Sean Mullaney recently told Morningstar there's a sweet spot, ages 66 through 69. Take a listen.
So these 4 years, the world tends to be our oyster. And during these 4 years, we have a high standard deduction. And we now have the senior deduction. Now that's quote unquote temporary for 4 years. We'll see if that is really temporary or not. But regardless, these 4 years tend to be the best Roth conversion years because we don't have required income. We could delay Social Security. We're not managing for premium tax credit. These are the 4 years I think most retirees should be most thinking about Roth conversions.
All right, so Tim, the question I have hearing that sounds simple, but is it really that simple?
No. And I mean, I hear where he's coming from. I mean, I totally get where Sean's coming from with that. But in my opinion, the best time to do a Roth conversion is when the tax rates are at their lowest. Mm-hmm. And right now, we are at historically low tax rates. Whether you like Trump or you hate him or you don't care, the fact is right now, while we're under the quote-unquote Trump tax codes, the taxes are pretty doggone low. I mean, look historically, and we're not at the very lowest they've ever been, but we're pretty close to it. And most every expert out there will tell you that the tax rates are going to have to go up at some point because of all the ridiculous spending, even with Trump in there now, ridiculous spending. I mean, the deficit is continuing to balloon with him in there. Mm-hmm. So at some point, we're going to have to pay up. And when that happens, the rates are going to go up. So I agree with a lot of what Sean said. But what I tell people is, it's really, in my opinion, let's look at right now, we know we've got super low tax rates, but what we really have to look at is when can you afford to do it? And what I tell people is at the end of every year, somewhere around Thanksgiving-ish, sit down and figure out what your total income for the household's going to be. If you're married, you and your wife, figure out all of the income and at least get a pretty good guesstimate of here's how much money we're going to have. Then pull up the tax bracket for that year. See where you're going to fall in the percentage. Are you in the 22, the 24, 30, 32, whatever? Where are you? Mm-hmm. And see how much leeway you've got before you would get to the next tax bracket. That shows you how much you could convert that year. So we've got IRAs with Safe Money Retirement that allow people to do what's called partial Roth conversions. Because almost every IRA out there, not all, but almost all of them, will allow you to do a full conversion at any time. But that means you've got to pay all of those taxes right now. Kevin, if you had one for $200,000, you might say, yeah, let's go ahead and do it. Let's go ahead and convert it because then it's Roth and I don't have to worry about it. Okay, we can do that. But now you're going to be liable like you got another $200,000 in income next year when you pay taxes. And if you're at the 22% tax rate, do the math. You're going to have a chunk of change to pay those taxes. So you have to look at those kind of things. And that's one of the things that's really important is making sure that people get into the right IRA for doing these Roth conversions, because there's only a limited number that allow the partial Roth conversions every year. So if that's something that's interesting to you, we've got to make sure you're in the right kind of IRA first before we even decide when do you want to do it. And the other thing that I think is vital that he didn't talk about, but again, this is getting a little deeper in the weeds than Sean was, is those partial Roth conversions, because you don't know every year if you're going to want to do any conversions or not. So there's certain things you can set up where it converts a certain amount every single year. Well, what happens if you are sick that year and you don't make quite as much? You may have been able to do more. Or if you worked a lot of overtime that year and you convert that same amount, that could kick you up to the next level. So you want something that you have a little bit of, you can call an audible. You've got a little bit of leeway. You can make that change. You can figure out what you want to do. And that's what's cool about these plans that we have that are partial conversion plans. Every year you could literally convert anywhere from 0% to 100%. So every year you can sit down, figure out where you're going to be, look at those tax brackets and figure out what you want to do. Now, real quick, I know we've done this before, but real fast, I want to say, what is a Roth? Because there are some people out there listening right now that say, I've heard of that. I hear that all the time. You wouldn't believe how much I hear that, Kevin. Yeah. Well, I've heard of a Roth. What is it? What does that do? Here's the deal, people. A Roth is basically a plan where you are paying the taxes now. And as long as that plan has been in place for 5 years, all of the growth that plan ever has, along with the principal, obviously, because you already paid the tax on that, but even the growth, if the plan has been active for 5 years, it's all tax-free. So it is absolutely this is kind of an outdated thing, but I would call it the Cadillac, but that's, I guess Cadillac really probably isn't the Cadillac anymore for most people. You know what I'm saying? The Lexus, I guess. I don't know, whatever you'd want to say. It's the best of any plan, because even after tax money that's in a plan, you're still having to pay taxes on the gains. Something that's in a regular IRA, you're having to pay taxes on all of it when you take it out. A Roth, you're not paying taxes on any of it as long as it's been there for 5 years. So that's why they are absolutely brilliant, and why we do so many with Safe Money Retirement. We do so many Roth conversions. But again, we want to do it smartly, and we want to get you into a plan because there may be a year where you can't. There may be a year where you can do quite a bit. Gives you that flexibility every year to do what works for you.
And it all starts with one phone call to Tim Wood and the team at Safe Money Retirement. If you'd like to learn more, maybe you're in that category where you hear us talk about Roth conversions on the show and you're not exactly sure how they work or if they fit your plan, and you'd like to get on his calendar, folks, there's no cost, there's no obligation. You can start it all off with one 15-minute discovery call, 800-913-SAFE. Again, that's 800-913-7233. Or online anytime at safemoneyretirement.com. That's safemoneyretirement.com.
It's now time for our Safe Money Story of the Week. Visit safemoneystories.com to view more.
For this week's Safe Money Story of the Week, I'm going to tell you about clients Jim and Tina. And since we were just talking about Roths, that was the big thing that they came in for. They had multiple plans. They had an IRA, they had a 401A, which is a different type of plan, but it's like a 401k, but it's similar. And she actually had 403Bs from multiple different hospitals. So multiple different types of plans, but it was all pre-tax. So yeah, they had a nice bit. I mean, when we added all that together, it was in the 7 figures. It was they were going to be able to have a nice retirement, but it was all going to be taxed, and they were concerned about that. Again, kind of like what we just discussed a few minutes ago, because if and when those tax rates go up, well, that could be right about in the middle of their retirement. And if those bottom tax rates go up significantly, well, that could affect them. So that's exactly what we did is we got them into multiple plans, and each of the plans that we got them into are those plans where you can do the partial Roth conversions. So what we did, they needed some income and they needed some growth. Instead of going into exactly what the plans are, which is what I normally do on these Safe Money Stories, I want to focus on the Roth component. Because yes, we did income plans for them, and yes, we did some growth plans for them. We also actually did something specifically for long-term care for them, an asset-based long-term care plan for them. But all of them had the ability to do the partial Roth conversions every single year. So that was their big thing. So they walked out every single plan they have now. Every year they can determine how much do we want to convert. And again, how do you do that? How did I tell Jim and Tina to do that? I said, basically, you got to look somewhere around Thanksgiving-ish, see where your income's going to be for the year, look at the tax brackets for that year, see how much money you've got to stay in whatever bracket you're in. And that's approximately, I mean, I wouldn't go right to the dollar, but if you've got 40,000, well, maybe 25 or 30 you could convert. Make sure you stay in that tax bracket. So that's exactly what we did for them. With every single plan that we set up for them, they have that partial Roth conversion ability. One more thing I want to mention real quick. It's part of the Safe Money story, but before we move on from Roth, is a lot of people get confused about Roth conversions and Roth contributions, because a lot of people think, oh, well, you know, you can only convert a certain amount to a Roth, and if you make over a certain amount, you can't do a Roth at all. Well, that's true. That's contributions. That's while you're still working, you're contributing to a Roth. Yes, there are limits. Conversions, people, there are no limits. So when I was talking to them, no matter how big their accounts were, you know, I told Jim, I'm like, you know, you can convert as much or as little as you want. There are no limits to a conversion. So over the next few years, I will work with them. They'll work with my team here to convert as much as possible, if not all of it over the years, to where when they retire, boom, that's all tax-free. They don't ever have to worry about it. They left totally happy, knowing what they had was going to do exactly what they needed it to do and get them set up for taxes in the future.
If you'd like more clarity about the difference between Roth conversions, Roth contributions, and those partial Roth conversions that Tim mentioned just moments ago, you want to sit down with somebody who does this day in and day out? Well, look no further than Tim Wood and his team with Safe Money Retirement. You want to get on his calendar? You want to schedule that 15-minute discovery call? Folks, there's no cost. There's no obligation. All you need to do is pick up the phone right now, 800-913-SAFE. That's 800-913-7233. Online anytime at safemoneyretirement.com. And don't forget, folks, if you missed any of our recent shows, you want to catch up on some more of our Safe Money stories, you can do that online anytime at safemoneystories.com. That's safemoneystories.com. All right, don't go anywhere. We are just getting started on this week's show. We'll squeeze in a quick break and continue with much more of the Safe Money Retirement Show with Tim Wood, founder, president, and certified financial fiduciary, right after this.
Hi, it's Glenn Beck. You've heard me talk about Tim Wood, certified financial fiduciary and owner of Safe Money Retirement for a while now. But what I haven't told you is that he's also a retirement income certified professional. Now, why should you care? Well, maybe you have pre-tax and after-tax retirement accounts, and you need to know how that's going to work. Or maybe you still don't have enough guaranteed lifetime income to cover your monthly bills. Or maybe your entire savings is still exposed to risk. Listen, I met Tim personally, and I can tell you that his team can help you. I want you to write this down, safemoneyretirement.com/Beck. Or call 800-913-SAFE to schedule a no-obligation, free 15-minute discovery call with Tim. You know I don't trust just anyone, so do your own homework on Tim Wood at safemoneyretirement.com/Beck and request a copy of his best-selling book, 800-913-SAFE, safemoneyretirement.com/Beck. Get started today.
It is the Safe Money Retirement Show, and we are glad to have you with us. Alongside Tim Wood, the founder, president, and certified financial fiduciary with Safe Money Retirement. My name's Kevin McAlpin. Hope you've had a fantastic day. And of course, you can always visit Tim and his team online at safemoneyretirement.com. That's safemoneyretirement.com. All right, so Tim, I want you to kind of visualize where I'm going with this one. You've gone grocery shopping, you're done, you're walking out to the car, and you've got that shopping cart in your hands. Now, the question is, what do you do with it after you load up the car? Do you return it to the little cart return area, or are you just going to leave it sitting around the parking lot? What does Tim Wood do? I feel like I know that you're the responsible type with this one.
Absolutely. I'm the guy that I will always take it back 100% of the time. I don't even care if it's raining. Yeah, that drives me crazy, people that won't take them to whatever you call them. I can't remember. The bin, is that what it's called? There's a name for it. I can't think of what it's called, but yeah, I always take it back.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that. I do as well, although my 10-year-old now, he thinks it's kind of fun to try to throw it as hard as he can to kind of bounce back off of it and see how far it'll come back. But even my young son, Max, understands that it's basic common decency to take that shopping cart back. It can prevent bigger problems later by avoiding denting cars, blocking spots, creates unnecessary hassles as well. And Tim, it reminds me of what you do for our listeners every day in retirement planning. We know that some of the most important decisions we will make as part of our plan, they might not feel urgent at the time, but boy, skipping one or two can lead to some real big headaches down the road, can it?
Absolutely. 100%. And corrals, that's what they're called. Shopping cart corrals.
There it is.
Yeah. But yes, there are a few things that absolutely can create headaches down the road, and I've got a list of them here. Number one is guessing instead of checking. That's exactly why we do a fact finder with every single client. People don't guess. We need to have a solid, concrete, here's what's going to happen plan in place for you. So you know at 65, here's what's happening. At 70, here's what's happening. At 80, here's what's happening. At 90, here's what's happening. You know exactly what's happening so we can have a plan. So yeah, make sure you don't guess, because guessing, you've got a very small chance of success. Knowing what you're going to do is exactly what you want to do. Another one is spending too much too early. Y'all have heard me talk about the go-go years, the slow-go years, and the no-go years. You can't spend all your money during the go-go years. It would be fun, yes, to take those trips around the world and cruises and live in Ireland for 3 months or whatever the heck it is you want to do. But you got to have a plan for that. What are you going to do when you're in your 80s and you just want to sit home, or you're in your 90s and you have to be in a facility? Mm-hmm. If you're out of money, I don't know what you're going to do. So we've got to make a plan. That's why we do an income plan all the way out to age 100 for every client, so we can see. We want to make sure that we can see and visualize your expenses and what's social going to be, along with the COLA that goes with social and any other income sources you've got. Let's plan out. Let's make sure. And if you need more money up front, let's plan for that. How many years do we want the extra money? Let's get that. But that's part of the plan. Another one is assuming you'll be working. A lot of people think, well, I'm never going to retire, Tim. I'm just going to keep working until I die. That's not realistic.
Right.
I mean, a lot of people think that's the case, but that's really not the case for most people. Now, does it happen? Sure, of course. People die on the job sometimes. That does happen.
Right.
But that can't be part of your real plan. We need to figure out there is going to be some point in your life when you get to those years where you physically can't go anymore. If you get to those years, now some people still go into their 90s. I get that. But overall, I'm just generalizing. We need to have a plan so you know exactly what's going to happen whenever you do step away from work, or how are you going to be able to work part-time and still bring in the income you need. A couple other things real quick, not planning for healthcare costs. This happens a lot of times with younger people. Mm-hmm. I have people coming in their late 50s, and they may have saved up a ton of money, and they're ready to retire. Man, I've had enough of this. Let's go. I'm done. Okay, well, what are you going to do for health care until you get 65 and can get Medicare? Oh, that shouldn't be a problem. Really? Have you checked rates on health care?
Yeah. Especially
when you're not in a group. When you're in a group, they're still expensive. When you get them individually, or just you and your spouse or your family, oh my gosh, it's ridiculous. It's trust me, I know. It's ridiculous. So make sure we've got a plan for that. But again, we put that into your plan. We know you're going to have these healthcare costs. There's going to be these costs for Medicare when you get there. Part B is always going to have a premium. Mm-hmm. And if you've got a Medicare supplement, that's going to be another premium. And then you're also going to need a drug plan with that. Or if we're going to have a Medicare Advantage plan, some of them don't have any extra premium, but some of them do. Make a plan. I know y'all hear me beat that dead horse over and over, but make a plan. And then lastly, waiting too long to enjoy the money. I see people all the time underliving their retirement. I literally just today, the day that we're recording this, I was just at lunch with my mom today, Kevin, and we were talking about that very thing. And she said, man, I wish while my dad was still here, we had done more things, but we kept wanting to save and scrimp. And, we didn't do this and didn't do that because we wanted to save. And now he's gone and she's still got plenty. She could live wherever she wanted to and do whatever she wants the rest of her life because they saved and didn't do. So again, let's make a plan. If y'all want to be able to travel, let's make a plan and let's put that in there. For the first 10 years of your retirement, if you want an extra $15,000 a year to travel, okay, let's plan for it. So those are the things that I see that really can backfire on people and become a major headache later, down the road, moving, years into retirement.
If you're in a similar situation, maybe you are so accustomed to saving and you're looking to have that spending plan as part of your retirement portfolio. You want to sit down with somebody who does this day in and day out. Let's get you that 15-minute discovery call with Tim Wood and his team at Safe Money Retirement. 800-913-SAFE. That's 800-913-7233. Online anytime at safemoneyretirement.com. Again, safemoneyretirement.com. And Tim, for those folks listening today, maybe they've heard us talk about that book as well, Safe Money Retirement, Your Game Plan for Success. You're going to offer up a copy of the book as well for folks who jump on the lines and get a hold of you and get on your calendar as well, right?
Absolutely. We literally I ordered 200 books and I got shipped 400.
Oh, geez.
So yeah, reach out, get your free copy. It really can make a difference in your plan.
And again, if you want to get on Tim's calendar, the easiest, quickest way to do that is by visiting safemoneyretirement.com. Again, safemoneyretirement.com. We'll also get you a copy of that book. His office is overflowing with copies of his book. You know what? He'll even sign one for you as well, right? We can even sweeten the pot a little bit, can't we?
Absolutely. Every one I send out, I sign, brother. 100% of the time.
I love it. Let's get you a copy of that book, Safe Money Retirement, Your Game Plan for Success. Again, the quickest way to get a hold of it is by visiting safemoneyretirement.com. That's safemoneyretirement.com. So, Tim, let's shift gears a little bit. I know we're a couple of months away from new leadership taking over at the Fed. Kevin Warsh is set to succeed Jay Powell as the next chairman, and portfolio manager Jason Katz recently told Fox Business that Warsh is stepping into the perfect storm shaped by not only inflation, but also oil prices and war.
They had a really difficult job prior to all of this, and it just got more complicated. Inflation was sticky, and now we see oil feed through to headline inflation. So they have that on one side of the equation. On the other side, they have AI starting to eat into jobs. They want to save the job market. Kevin Warsh has stepped into a precarious position.
I mentioned my dad, by the way, a few moments ago. My dad used to always say, control what you can control. And this feels, Tim, like a great example, right? There's a lot of things we can't control. There's a lot of things that are out there that we have, no real opportunity to do anything about. But what are some things when it comes to our financial planning that we can control, even with so much in the news these days?
Man, you're right. Anything could happen at any moment. I mean, literally, it's almost, especially it seems like even more so in 2026, you get up every day and check the news wherever you go for your news to see what the heck is going on in the world because something different's happening. Mm-hmm. Somebody's attacking somebody else, or there was a terrorist attack or something on Wall Street or something. Yeah, you're absolutely right. He is walking into a mess. I can't imagine walking into that job right now. Yeah. And the challenge is, the Fed thought they had inflation under control, but now it's looking like maybe they didn't. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people before were even saying that they didn't before, but that they were getting pressure from above. We won't say who, but we're getting pressure from above to lower the rates before it needed to happen. Mm-hmm. And now it kind of looks like that could be coming home to roost a little bit. The things that are outside our control, yeah, there's nothing we can do about it. But y'all hear me talk about it every week, people. What is in your control? Number one, how much income you're going to have. That's in your control. Mm-hmm. And you need to make sure you've got enough income and not if come. Guaranteed lifetime income for you and your spouse that you cannot outlive. Even if you or your spouse set a record and lived to 143, it's still paying you. And then on top of that, we need to plan for inflation. So it's part of an overall plan. But that's number one, is income. That's what I work with every single client. Number one, let's get your income set, because no matter what happens in the world, you're going to need income.
Right.
Your bills aren't going anywhere. You're still going to have to pay for food and gas and whatever. We've got to have income for that. And we need it to be able to grow with inflation to make sure that you can survive the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years in retirement. That's number one. Number two is making sure that you are able to withstand when the next big market event happens. We're in a huge bubble. We've talked about this for weeks and weeks. What happens to every bubble that's ever been on this planet, period? It's going to happen sooner or later. Are you prepared? If you're in your 20s or 30s, you can withstand it because you got plenty of time to grow it back. If you're in your late 50s, 60s, 70s, even worse, 80s, market goes down, depending on how much it goes down, that could really hurt you later in retirement, and you might not have time. So I call it the time horizon in my book. We were just talking about it. Got a whole section in the book talking about it, about your time horizon. If you got plenty, you can have more at risk. If you don't have as much, you need to have even less at risk. And there's other things we'll talk about. We would talk about long-term care. We talk about leaving a legacy. We talk about the healthcare piece. There's a lot of other things, but those are the really big things. Income is number one. Income is by far, that's the biggie. And then making sure you're prepared for a crash, and then all these other things kind of fit into place.
800-913-SAFE. That's 800-913-7233. Or, of course, you can always reach them online at safemoneyretirement.com. That's safemoneyretirement.com. Well, Tim, this has just zipped right on by like it tends to do. And before we do run out of time, sir, the floor is all yours for the final word.
Well, thanks, Kevin. Hope everyone has a fantastic weekend coming up. We talked about a bunch of important things. I mean, what we just talked about, the Fed cutting the rates and all that stuff, and the fact that there's a whole list of things that you need to make sure that you're prepared for. I want to go back to the very first thing we discussed, the Roth conversions versus contributions. Doing Roth conversions, absolutely, for most people. Now, not everybody. I'm not saying this is 100%, but for a lot of people, getting into a plan where you can convert as much as you can every year, and you have to look and see where that tax bracket, that's step one. Well, I didn't actually say step two. Step two would be you also need to make sure you've got the money to pay for it next April. So, yeah, you got to look and see where you're going to be this year and make sure you stay in the same tax range. But you also got to calculate, okay, well, if I'm going to stay in the, let's say, 24% tax bracket, okay, great. Well, if I convert $100,000, that's 24 large I got to pay next April. Do you have it? If you got it, great. If you don't, then you don't want to do that much. So getting back to that, why are they huge? Because after 5 years, that whole amount of money, whether it's in an income plan, a growth plan, no matter what it's in, completely tax-free, all of it for the rest of your life. And using that can really allow you to have your own safe money retirement.
The preceding information does not represent tax, legal, or investment advice. Obviously, by contacting us now, you are only taking the first step towards protecting your retirement. No information presented today should be acted upon without meeting with a qualified, licensed insurance professional. It is important that you read all insurance contract disclosures carefully before making a purchase decision. Interest and other guarantees in annuity contracts are subject to the claims-paying ability of the insurance carrier that issued the contract. The tax consequences of annuity income should be considered with the help of a licensed tax professional. Rates and returns mentioned on this program may vary based on state availability and are subject to change without notice.